Okay, so the third very common thing that we see all the time is that players aren't using a backswing that's long enough. So when we've got a shot like this yellow here, or a shot that requires more power and more spin on the cue ball, it's very important to use a backswing that's long enough so that you can generate the spin on the cue ball and also accelerate the cue smoothly without throwing the cue offline one way or the other. So on this yellow, I've got to generate quite a bit of spin because I want to screw back for the green. And if I use a very short backswing, so if I only pull the cue back a little bit, very difficult for me there. So I've managed to pot the ball. It's easier with that shorter backswing for me to throw the cue offline and maybe miss the pot. But I certainly couldn't generate the backspin that I needed to pot the yellow and screw back for the green because I hadn't got enough of a runway there with my cue to build up the speed and get the cue going at the right speed to get that amount of screw back on the white. So what's much more effective here is that we're going to use a nice long backswing so that we've got plenty of time to smoothly get the cue up to speed and generate all the spin that we want on the cue ball. So nice long final backswing, push right through the shot, easily generated the spin that I required on the white that time. So by using that nice long backswing, I got right the way through the cue ball, generated that backspin that I wanted on the white easily, and I'm less likely to throw the cue offline. So the third common mistake we see is that players don't approach the shot in a consistent way each time. So they don't stand behind the shot and walk into the shot in a very consistent and uniform way on every shot. So what we'll see that's very common is that players will get a chance in the balls like this. They might pot their opening red. So they pot the opening red and then they walk straight round to try and pot the black without standing behind the shot and just get straight down to it, making it much more likely that we haven't quite got down on the correct line. So what the professional players are doing instead is they're making sure that they have a disciplined approach to each shot. So they're standing behind the line of the shot, walking into the shot, play the shot, keep nice and still. And then when they go around to play the next shot, they stand behind the shot, chalk their cue, pick the line that they think, walk into the shot properly and execute the next shot. So now if you're somebody that's thinking, okay, well, I've got my cue action quite straight, I'm doing quite good on my long blue shots, maybe you're doing some pots to the middle and you're thinking, okay, I'm cueing straight, you know, why aren't my breaks improving in real games? Then you need to be asking yourself, are you practicing that break building and those patterns of break building? And try and hold yourself to some higher standards. So set 4 or 5 reds up around the pink and black spot and just practice from some random positions doing those breaks. Maybe if you can as well, I always advise people to film themselves. Very beneficial because then you can have a look back on the video and think, actually, maybe if I'd have played this shot in a slightly different way and come into this area, I'd have had more success than the shot I tried to play, which resulted in the end of break. So fantastic to film yourself, try and analyse where things have gone wrong. Okay, so common mistake number 5 is that players are going to hit the ball too hard. So I think it's very common when we're playing snooker that we're playing on a 12 by 6 foot table. It's a big table and we think we've got to hit the balls very hard. But actually the professional players are always hitting the balls a lot softer than us. So on this shot here, I'm going to try and pop this blue into the top corner, and what you'll see a lot is that players will just hit these shots too hard. So I'll try to pop the blue, and then you'll see lots of movement, the balls are running around the table, I'll just hit that shot far too hard. Put the colours back on their spots a second. So if I was on this blue this time, and I wanted to stop position for that red, I can hit the ball far softer. So nice and smooth. Hit the ball far softer. I've got the same reaction on the white, but when I hit it softer, I've got much more control. I'm not having to deliver my arm too fast, which means I can much more effectively deliver this cue in a straight line. Right, now for shot 3, I've actually moved the position of this red. So now I've moved the red over to the other side of the pack, and the red only goes into the opposite corner pocket now. So now the previous two shots, the way we went in between the green and the brown is not really very useful to us this time, because it's very difficult going in between the green and brown to get the white into a nice position to be able to pop this red. So this time I'm going to screw the white in between the yellow and brown, and I'm going to come off this bulk cushion again with lots of left hand side on the white and flip the white off this side cushion and then down towards the red. And the important thing with these shots, and it definitely cropped up on shot 2 in this video as well, is that it's the final line that the white is taking that we're really interested in. So on this shot, once I can hit the bulk cushion and then this side cushion, the final line that the white is going to take is always going to be towards that red ball. So it's a really nice line. I've got a big margin of error of landing nicely on that red ball. So that's why we would always try and pick a route where the white is always travelling towards the ball that we want to get position on. So if I have a go at this one now, in between the yellow and brown, bottom and left hand side. And as we talked about there, you can see that the white is always travelling along a line that's towards this red ball there. So that's why this time it was much more beneficial to go in between the yellow and brown. And the second common reason that players will miss shots is they do most of their aiming when they're down on the shot. So let's walk round to this one and have a look what I mean when I say you're doing your aiming down on the shot. What tends to happen is players have got a black like this, they're quite happy with their position, they're nice and pleased that they're on the black. And then we get down to the shot and you can see players doing this to try and aim the black, going, I think it's about there. And then when they play the shot, they've got it just a little bit wrong and the black doesn't go into the pocket. So again, what's incredibly important, let's get this black back again. Set myself up with a very similar shot. So what's incredibly important here is that I do most of my aiming here. Talked about this in lots of other videos, but what you don't want to feel like is if you get down to a shot and you feel like the angle is wrong and you're having to change it like this, again, get back up off the shot and try and do your aiming again from this position. Almost all of your aiming is done from this overhead position, and then when you get down you want to feel like you've just got straight down to the shot, you're happy with it, you do some waggles, you pull back, you play the shot, and that time the black has gone in nicely. So make sure you're not doing your aiming when you're actually down on the shot. Now I thought what would be really interesting to do here is to play these two breaks over the top of one another. So let's play these two breaks then. And you can see I've overlaid them on the screen now, so this just gives you more of an interesting idea of how the white is in slightly different positions each time. So you can see that similar shots, I'm going about the break in the same way, but obviously the one shot there I've had to use the black cushion and come on and off the cushion. And on the other one, I was able to just play a little stun run through. So both shots now, I'm on the same line for the black, and I'm playing the white into a very similar position. And you can see I've almost landed in the same place because obviously I want to just finish just a touch high on the black. And then both of these shots again, very similar, just trying to leave a little angle on the red to get up for the black again. So again, both of these are following a similar pattern. You can see the white's very, very close to the other one on both those pictures, but you're always doing slightly different positional shots. So obviously the one white now is low enough to screw off the side cushion. The other white, I've got to play round off two cushions. So two different shots there up to the yellow. You can see the white coming round on the one and off the side cushion on the other. So both leaving a nice shot on the yellow, but of course both breaks are just slightly different. And of course, this is why it's always good to build up your repertoire of shots. I always think of snooker as a bit like having a toolbox and you've got lots of different tools for the job. Well, on this break here, doesn't matter where the white lands, I feel like I can go into that toolbox that I've got and pick out a shot that's going to allow me to get onto the next ball. So you can see the two different whites again here. Both of them not in bad positions. I can get nicely to the blue from both of these. And you can see both of those, I've left a nice shot on the blue, nice angle to just come down for the pink. So they're almost on the same line. just slightly further away than one, and I've got the same idea on the pink here, almost on the same line, just leaving a nice angle to get down for the black. But what I wanted to highlight here, and what's really important, is that you're never getting the white absolutely perfect. So that was why I wanted to do this video. I just thought it'd be interesting to show the difference between those two clearances. Okay, now the second big reason that players don't consistently cue straight is gripping the cue too tight at the back. So when we play shots, we don't want to feel like this grip hand has really tightened and strangled the cue. It can easily throw the cue offline. So I'm not saying don't hold the cue and don't grip at all, but we don't want to feel like this has gone very tight and it's suddenly 9 out of 10 in power and we're really strangling the cue. So the common thing that we see is that players, if I'm just playing a little stun shot here, is that players really tighten up on the cue there, and it's easy to lose a bit of control and throw the cue offline. So what I want to do instead there is just try and keep that hand nice and relaxed, nice and neutral when I play the shot. So feathering up to the shot just the same. Now keep that hand nice and relaxed and loose. So nice shot there, through to my chest, no tension. And when I've delivered there, I should just feel that somebody could pull the cue out of my hand if they wanted to. I haven't got it absolutely strangled after the shot, and that's going to help keep the cue nice and online. And that brings us on to number 4, which is that players accelerate the cue too quickly. So players are in a rush after the backswing to get the cue delivered and get the cue up to speed. It's much more beneficial here to build the speed up of the cue gently and smoothly. So if I've got to pot a ball here and I want to follow the white into the pocket, so we go down onto the shot and now I want to follow this ball into the pocket. Now if I try and accelerate too quickly, I may pot the ball, but I might not get the controlled follow through that I want nicely into that pocket. So what's better on this shot here is if so make sure this is set up nice and straight, but what's better here is if I give myself plenty of time to get the cue up to speed. So I'm aiming at the top of the white and then I want to do my backswing, keep still, smoothly push the cue through so there's no rush to get the cue up to speed. And that's much more control on that shot there. It just gives you plenty of time for the arm to stay under control, that back arm, it's not rushed, it's building up speed gently, and that gives you much more control. You hit the white more accurately and you hit the object ball more accurately. Right, so number 1 here is moving the head. So we hear this all the time about head movement and keeping the head very, very still. But there's a reason why this is very important. So some head movement, if it's consistent and it's happening on every shot, isn't always that detrimental to a player. So if you look at somebody like Judd Trump, he has a slight lean and a bit of head movement, but he does that on every single shot. So it's a consistent way that he's striking the ball. But for everybody else, we're trying to keep that head nice and still because any head movement can easily throw the cue offline one way or the other. So what we try and do is keep that head very still on every shot so that we can't throw the cue offline and it makes cueing straight that bit easier. Now, the problem with head movement is it tends to happen more when we're under a bit of pressure. So if I've got a red like this one, a long red that I need to try and pot to maybe get in to start a frame or maybe to win a frame, it's common on this shot because it's more difficult, there's a bit more anxiety that will move the head to have a look at what the outcome of the shot is. So this is very important here that we try and keep the head very still on these critical shots. Okay, so I'm going to play this shot here. My goal is to keep very, very still so that I don't throw the cue offline. More important on these difficult shots, so no movement. Bring in the cue ball, back up the table. I have a nice shot there on the green there so that I can get to the yellow. So very, very important, especially on those shots where there's a little bit more anxiety, you feel a little bit more pressure on the shot. Remember to keep that head very, very still. So as always, if you did enjoy this video, please remember to give the video a like. If you watch these videos and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing because that really just helps me to keep this content coming. So there are lots of instructional videos like this, practice routine videos, and also some fun videos as well with some exhibition shots. So like, subscribe. You can support me on Patreon as well. The details for that are in the description below. For anyone that's interested in any one-to-one coaching sessions or group sessions, I do those on the table all the time. So my email address and my website link are in the description below. So please get in touch with me for anybody that's interested in that. And as always, thanks for watching. Cheers.